I'm gonna sling it on the curb, weed cards every corner set.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk, off-season edition, where we go every other week. And I'm joined by my man, Mr. Gary Freeze. Gary, how's it going, bud?
It's going good, buddy. How are you?
Good. It's a Wednesday. It was National Signing Day.
Yeah.
For those that have not signed during the early period. So, hump
interesting
day.
developments.
Yeah, a few, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, doing good, bud, doing good. Can't wait to talk some college football here. Feel like we've, I don't know, been lost without it a little bit. I mean, there's been some news going around for the past couple weeks since the national championship, but really this was the main day since the national championship, really.
Yeah, and that's kind of the challenge with college football, right? Like in college sports in general, if you're a college wrestling, baseball, basketball fan, like during the off season, there's not a ton, right? Like there's signing day.
There's signing day,
is
yeah,
upon us. And then of course there's the start of like spring ball and camp and all that stuff for football, right? So we're gonna have some stuff to talk about in the next few months. And then of course in between that time, we have the draft. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the draft we'll have some conversations about, but it is the challenge with college football, right? And the NFL has the luxury of they own essentially every month, right? They've got the season that goes from late August, early September, all the way till now mid-February. And then the league year starts in March, free agency. Now free agency starts before the draft.
Combine.
Right. So them moving free agency up gives them the month of March now, right? Yeah. And then you got the draft in April, and you've got the combine in between there, and then May is when you start, getting mini camps and off-season activities and rookies report, and there's always news around rookies getting in and stuff like that. So like with college football, it is interesting in the off-season. What are some of the developments? And I think we talked a little about the coaching carousel last night. And there's still some reverberating effects of the NFL coaching carousel on college football, which we'll talk a bit about tonight as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. We talked about free agency with the NFL, that signing period with free agency for the NFL. Essentially now, college football is almost like a free agency, maybe midway to the end of their seasons, and then definitely after their season ends, or after the conference championships, you see a lot of players start entering the transfer portals. But now with the NILs and everything, it's basically a free agency period.
And everybody's on 1-year deals because of the way the transfer portal works. Yes. Everybody's on 1-year deals.
Yeah.
Imagine the NFL if everybody was on 1-year deals.
I know. You almost wonder, and this is a big reach here, okay? You almost wonder if some of these guys that go to camps together before they go to their different colleges and everything else like that, you're competing against, the best of the best at these camps in your certain positions. This is a far reach here, but, and I know this wasn't even on topic for tonight, but do you think in the future that these guys will get together after, say, a year or two at whatever college they go to and be like, hey, it's not working out for me over here.
Let's form a super team.
Let's form a super team.
I think that is where we could end up seeing some of this stuff if they don't get the transfer portal under control. And I think that would be the point where the NCAA would step in and say, okay, we've got to do something about the transfer portal, right? And I don't know if is it instituting contracts in the NIL deals, right? Do they let it just be that sort of kind of regulated but unregulated? Like the NCAA isn't regulating it, but these players are signing contracts with these NIL deals, right? Is that maybe where we end up in I'm curious, right? Because it has become, with the way the transfer portal works, it really has become 1-year deals that these guys are on. And we see guys, obviously, like the majority do stay at colleges, but there's so many kids in the transfer portal, and it's gotten just more and more every year. There's so much churn in the transfer portal that it's just, I don't know how coaches keep it straight either.
I don't either.
They've got to manage scholarships, how many they offer, but also getting guys out of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
What I'd be curious to see, though, is the number of people who enter the transfer portal and then don't end up at another college. Like how many guys have had
go
that
to like
happen?
a JUCO or D2,
Right.
maybe.
Right.
So I'm actually on a transfer portal website right now.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to find out. Yeah, it's not.
See, we're getting real-time information here. This is how we do it on Tailgate.
Yeah, it's not giving me the amount of players that are still you know, when I'm looking at the uncommitted, but it's only giving me the top 25. Or wait, hold up.
Oof.
Oh, here
there
we
were
go.
3,000 at one point.
It was crazy. Why is it only? It's still only giving me 25.
Last year in December, 75% of the entrants were still not on teams.
That's just crazy.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I know. Wait. That's December 2021, not 2020. So
okay.
There were a lot of players still in the transfer portal in late December. I can't find one that's right up to date, but
yeah. It's crazy too, because to me, if you're going to be playing, if you want to play college football for, you know, this coming fall, to me, there needs to be a rule in there. Like, if you're not enrolled, if you're transferring, if you're in the portal, because essentially you're deciding this the first month of December, okay? And in the back of your mind, you probably already have a list of maybe a handful of schools you want to go to.
If you don't, you're in there for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have a list of 5 schools or so that you want to go to, or that you want to see or whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
College is out first part of December.
Yeah.
It doesn't go back until mid-January.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you have a I can't even think of the January class, the one class for like 3 weeks, and
the winter
like the interim class or something like that. So then you're starting your second semester end of January or so. And that could be and here's where I'm getting at, and it'll bring up my point here. If you're not enrolled in college, wherever you're going to go to, by the time they start classes, I don't think you should be able to play then, because you've basically had 2 straight months to figure it out. Yeah. And so it brings me to my point here of Caleb Williams went out to USC. Now, I don't think that they're on a different schedule out there as far as classes go.
They're on quarters, I believe, at USC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So it is it is different. Ohio State deals with that too, because some players, like with graduation and the draft and stuff too, like because of the quarters and all that. So
yeah. And so to me, I don't understand why he took so much time, because I think he knew where he was going, but to prolong it for essentially almost 2 months.
Almost 2 full months.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
I agree. The whole transfer portal has gotten to the point that it's really strange, because USC also had another big name quarterback decommit and then commit to USC, right? Decommitted from Oklahoma and committed to USC.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm Caleb Williams, I don't know that I want to go, right? I'm sure the NIL is nice there in LA, but to me, where he was rumored to be going would have been a really good opportunity for him. I don't know that it would have been a great fit, but I think it would have been a good opportunity for him to go up to Wisconsin and be the guy.
We're good.
I know you didn't want him there, but
it's, to me, it's a totally different offensive scheme.
It is.
So I don't think that he would flourish as much as he would staying at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't just stay.
Yeah, I mean, you got Brent Venables coming in, who is
Rattler transferred, and the highly touted freshman, didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
That's your job. Like, I don't know. There's something weird there with Caleb, and these kids are so young too. That's the other thing about this whole thing. Is like they're making these decisions as if they're free agents in professional football, and they don't have the infrastructure in place. And even pros don't really put the infrastructure around
they put it in place for 1 year, basically, right? Or actually not even 1 year, but they have a class as a rookie for a money management class and everything else like that.
And then it's on them, and if the team does care to put anything around them. But like these college kids certainly don't have it. Because damn well the NCAA doesn't have a freshman class that's like name, image, likeness 101, right? Or finance management 101 that focuses on your ability to manage your funds, your ability to hire a financial manager, those sorts of things. I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better, but I think eventually we're gonna get to a point that there's a balance. It's either the NCAA dissolves and these conferences manage it and each school manages it as if it's like a business, or the NCAA starts to pull back the transfer portal stuff.
Well, I mean, essentially it is a business. I mean, if you really want to get downright and dirty with it, and I know we're going off on some tangents here, but I mean, look how long coaches are staying at these institutions. It's a business decision for them, for the universities. If you're losing, you're moving on. You're moving on, getting the next guy in, and whatever that buyout is or whatever, you're paying it, and then you're paying, as we saw this year, an ungodly amount to some of these coaches who, frankly, I don't know if they're going to be there in 2 to 3 years, but you're signing them to 10-year, $100 million contracts. So it's definitely
those booster coffers are overflowing.
Oh, yeah. It really makes you wonder though, too, why we're not seeing those type of contracts in the NFL.
Yeah,
not as far as the longevity, but the annual salary.
Yeah, and there's a handful of coaches in the NFL that are paid on that level, but it is different, and I don't know what the reason is for it, right? Other than the fact that the boosters are like, just get him or keep him, and you got the Texas schools all have the oil money, right? The Southeast schools, they have all that plantation money still from, all that wealth that's still there. And in the Midwest, you've got, all the agriculture, all the big business, the finance and all that. Like there's just money flowing fucking everywhere. Yeah. California, you got all the Hollywood and everything else that comes along with that. So, you got just money. And I think that's what it really boils down to with college athletics is there's so many jobs. And I say that, let's understand that 155 jobs in the grand scheme of things is not so many jobs, right? But there are 155 schools, and probably the Power 5 conferences account for 70 of them. So let's say 70 high profile, big time head coaching jobs. And there's 10 candidates that we see each year that are really highly sought after. So you're talking about 70 schools really vying for about 10 people. And I think that is where the boosters, and there's this rabid fan, like this rabid attachment of boosters to their alma maters too. So like,
yeah,
I think all of that kind of adds up to the supply is not there and there's demand. Whereas in the NFL, I think it's the opposite. You have 32 teams and you've got a lot of coaches, and I don't want to open that can of worms again because we talked about it last night, but you have a lot of coaches that are thought to be eligible and or qualified for head coaching positions, right? On any given team at any given time, there's the head coach and the 2 coordinators. So you're talking couple hundred probably in the pool. So the demand for the jobs isn't there, but the supply is. So probably NFL owners are like, yeah, this is the going rate, right? Maybe that's kind of where it is. Because you see guys like Belichick, he makes a lot. Tomlin, he's got a pretty good salary. Harbaugh did when he was with San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan. Like, some of these guys are getting paid on that level. Ron Rivera's making a shitload of money in Washington. McCarthy got paid in Dallas. So like there's some that do, but you're right. That's looking at it from the guys in the NFL, like other than the prestige of being in the NFL, you have to look down and say, like, is James Franklin worth 3 times as much as me?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But all right. So, well, we talked a little bit about the transfer portal and all that. And so with the transfer portal, you finally saw Caleb Williams making his decision on where he's going. He went from Oklahoma to USC, just made that decision yesterday, I believe. Some other notable names in there. You had Spencer Rattler, went from Oklahoma to South Carolina. And then you had Jackson Dart from USC. He is now down in Ole Miss, down with good old Lane Kiffin and his sporty car down there. Man, I don't know if I'd be driving that down there in Mississippi, to be honest.
Oh boy, I can't imagine the infrastructure is real good down there.
Dang.
Maybe in Oxford because it's college town, but
yeah. You had Quentin Ewers, Ohio State, is now committed down to Texas. Some other ones, that really the only one that kind of stood out to me as far as a bigger name, and that was the Dylan Gabriel, Central Florida quarterback. He is now in at Oklahoma. Other than that really, and to me anyways, as far as top names, top well-known names in the college football positions and names and everything like that, those were kind of the top handful of players that we saw on the move this postseason. So
yeah, for as many players as there are in the transfer portal, it is interesting to see that there's obviously the haves and the have-nots, right? There's 5, 10, maybe 15 guys, right? You could probably go 15 deep and be like, okay, that guy could be a difference maker somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's just a bunch of guys that are mad because they didn't have playing time, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to see, Jackson Dart, and then we talked about, his tight end buddy there that went from USC. I forget the guy's name, but pretty highly touted tight end, not a, household name as tight ends normally aren't. But, I think that Jackson Dart get is a big get for Lane, right? You lose Corral. You're not sure what you've got behind him. They had that freshman played the one game where Corral had gotten hurt. And
right there at the end of the season.
Yeah, he looked like he had some potential there, but I think you bring in a guy like a Jackson Dart and make it a competition.
It's competition, and they're competition.
And you get the best out of them.
Yeah, competition breeds success. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's the only way you or anyone else around you are going to get better. So yeah, I'm totally fine with that as well too. So, so switching from the players, and we touched base on it just briefly. Let's switch over to the coaching carousel.
Yeah.
Really the only coaching talk right now is that up in Ann Arbor, and what is Harbaugh doing up there? I understand, 2 years ago or this coming year or this past year, he took a pay cut to stay on, basically, and he got the job done. But he restructured his contract, got the job done, beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten, made it to the playoffs, all that. And then his name was, everything was fine and dandy. And then towards the end of the NFL season, then you start hearing rumblings that he might be in the mix for the Las Vegas opening. Then that kind of died down after about a week. Then it's Miami. Then it's Minnesota.
And you had Chicago sprinkled in there early too.
And Chicago sprinkled in there as well.
That never seemed to really materialize to anything, but there was talk that might be his dream landing job.
Yeah. And then, this is just what baffles the shit out of me here. And it baffles me, but it could be very well played by Harbaugh. And it's, you go have a interview for a head coaching position with Minnesota on the day that is National Signing Day.
Bold strategy.
Bold move, Cotton. Bold move.
As Jason Bateman would say. Some bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pans out. Yeah, it's crazy to me too that he did it on National Signing Day. But
yeah,
I think if you're posturing for Michigan to pay you, give you that pay raise, give you your money back, essentially,
that's where I was going with it. Yeah,
it might be a solid strategy, honestly.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're gonna take the bait,
well,
we'll see.
And so this just came in as we were about 5 minutes ago. But the Rams offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, has emerged as the favorite to land the Vikings position.
And that makes a lot of sense because he and Kirk have a history in Washington. When Kirk's best years in Washington were when McVay was OC and O'Connell was quarterback's coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense if they're committed to keeping Kirk Cousins as well. And they've got a new GM there, and that GM has to make that decision. But if they're committed to keeping Kirk there, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So to me,
it's been a whirlwind up there. Man.
It has been. And we talked about this last night a little bit. And I went off on a tangent in my Thanks Haskins for it. But this is February 2nd. It's National Signing Day. Yeah. Like, there should be, like, unless something just out of the blue, an Urban Meyer situation to where he's at the bar dancing with someone else or whatever, if it's something of that nature or worse happens, you should have your head coach for damn sure.
Yeah.
And the rest of your coaching staff in line.
You should have your ducks in a row.
Exactly.
On National Signing Day.
Exactly. Like, you're going out. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I did hear a little rumbling from a quote or something of what Harbaugh might have said to someone that asked him, as he's recruiting players to come to Michigan, what are you telling them? And he flat out said, and this, don't know if it's true or not, but I love the University of Michigan. Why wouldn't you want to come here?
Yeah.
But if someone's offering to double my salary, why wouldn't I go take a look at it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see it, but if I was a recruit in that position and I haven't signed yet, and today was signing day, and I'm hearing these rumblings,
that's a tough message.
Yeah. I don't know if I sign.
That's a tough. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about these kids that they crave this day, and they may be split between two schools, right? It might be Michigan and Michigan State or something, right? And Michigan State's got their guy. Well, Michigan's guy's down interviewing with Minnesota, and I don't even know if he's going to be there, and he's been the one recruiting me. If I'm really splitting hairs, on National Signing Day, I don't want to commit to Michigan and then 2 days later have egg on my face because my coach is headed to Minnesota, right? So
yeah.
You're absolutely right. Like, what message are you sending to these kids? And yeah, you can love the University of Michigan all you want, but the message you're sending taking interviews is that, well, maybe I don't have both feet in the door.
Yeah. Well, and then it's a domino effect. If he does leave, then everyone that you had just signed for that signing period, they can option out. They can option out again. And then all of your other players that are currently there, they can option out, basically. I mean, they can option out whenever, but now the guys that just signed there, they have the option to option out. And so you just start a domino effect to where it's almost you handcuff the university, and it's almost you better hire within your OC or your whoever, because your defensive coordinator is gone now. He's in Baltimore in the NFL. But you need to make that decision.
Head coach's brother.
Yeah. But you need to make that decision quick and act fast, because as it stands right now, and we'll talk about it here later, Michigan has like a top 10 recruiting class.
Yeah. They had a very good recruiting season, and they are potentially, if Harbaugh does decide to leave, they could potentially lose a ton of that. Yeah. That would be a drastic change and pretty devastating for a team that was just in the playoff and has a top 10 recruiting class coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we touched base on the transfer portal for the players, and then some head coaching moves. We'll take a quick 30-second break thanks to our sponsor, and we'll be right back. PocketPairClub.com. Pocket Pair Club, club number 26881. PocketPairClub.com. All right, we are back, and that little break was brought to you by PocketPairClub.com, club number 26881, PocketPairClub.com. All righty, we are back, and we are better than ever. So, moving on from the transfer portal and from the coaching carousel and the coach that may or may not be on the move. So let's go ahead and let's talk National Signing Day. To me, and we'll get to the rankings here in just a bit, but to me, with the early signing period now, National Signing Day has lost its luster. Usually you would see on ESPN, the week of, and especially the day of, all these ESPN shows going to be watching, this and that. And I really did not see much of anything today on ESPN.
No, it's really lost its luster. It used to be this whole big event. The signing period was much shorter, and and you mentioned it, the early signing period has really just changed things. That you don't even get the big day anymore. College game day used to go to, the where they have the East-West Shrine game where the high school seniors go and show off, and they used to have a bunch of commitments there, and it's just not at all what it used to be. And you see a lot of like the top recruits now too are enrolling in school early, not just committing early, but enrolling in school early, getting there in January, graduating high school ahead of time, and getting there in January, getting enrolled and getting familiar with the program so that they can be ready when August and September roll around. So, it really is, unfortunately, like this is a big milestone day, but you just don't see the big names waiting for this day. There are still some, and there were a handful of top 10, top 15 guys that committed today, but just not the same.
It's not like it's not the same where
when Landon Collins told his mom he was going to LSU, and you could see her just
she walked off. She was so she walked off. But
that's definitely the shit we need on signing day. I'm here for that.
Well, especially in February though too, because we've talked about it, and literally we talked about it tonight to where there's not too much college content, unless we just want to keep on repeating ourselves and beating a dead horse. I think that's where this day truly comes in handy for the sport in general. Instead of having it in December when you're in the middle of conference championships, not playoff games, bowl games, you have all of that. It's right in the middle of all of that. Settle down on that end, because you're really taking away your coach's focus from coaching the games, and still be out there recruiting, and get these guys to sign and everything else. And you still had some guys that had signed in the early signing period and then backed out, a week or two later, and then recommitted today, either there or somewhere else. But man, it's today. National Signing Day should be something that everyone looks forward to, that it needs to be a big national spotlight again because of the downtime and everything else. And it's what a perfect week to do it. You just finished NFL. You have another week and a half before the Super Bowl. So why not get it while you can, in the middle of February or the first start of February, that can just kind of make your way slowly and have a couple weeks to talk about those signing periods or signees and how they're going to help your program move the needle forward to where you guys need to be.
Yeah. And I always loved about signing day as just a fan too, is all of these commitments, right? The verbal commitments that could change on signing day, and teams could go from number 1 to number 10 draft or recruiting classes, and vice versa, right? On signing day, if a team's able to sign 4 or 5, big time 4-star, 5-star recruits, they can really jump up, and you see these teams, suddenly the outlook for a program changes on signing day. Think about Ole Miss, right? And I know, looking back at Hugh Freeze, there was some shadiness going on there, and never really had anything get fleshed out and proven, but it was real sus, right? But think about that National Signing Day when Ole Miss went from a kind of also ran in the recruiting game in the SEC to suddenly the number 1 recruiting class in the nation, and they were putting guys in the top 10 in the draft routinely for top 10, top 15 in the draft routinely for 3-4 years. That's the intrigue of National Signing Day, right? This early signing stuff, and we all kind of know what's going on when the time February rolls around. It is frustrating.
Well, and you brought it up, the national spotlight that's on those players. What if you would have had the player, the 5-star recruit, that Deion Sanders flipped.
Dude.
What if
on signing day?
On signing day. What if you had that today?
Get the Aflac Duck out there. Coach Prime.
Get you one of these.
Yeah, man. Like, just, yeah, like that sort of stuff would be awesome. But instead, it's like it's a news article, but it's like a second-rate news article in December.
Yeah.
Right? So it's tough. I get, to a certain extent, like I get why they want to kind of stretch it out, because COVID really changed things. And they were like, we can't have the big ceremonies anymore. We can't have this. We can't have that. Well, that's all kind of petering out. So let's start to reevaluate here and figure out how this is impacting the sport, because it really is having a negative impact. Not only you mentioned it, right? But I keep mentioning signing day, but you mentioned it. The intrigue of the offseason too. When somebody flips a guy like that, what's it mean for the program? When a team, a program captures 5 or 6 of the guys that had them in their final 3 or 4, right? What does that sort of thing mean for the outlook of a program? Because it really did change the outlook of Ole Miss for 3 or 4 years. They were a top 10, they were number 2 in the nation, playing against Alabama, number 1 in the nation at one point with the Land Shark defense, man. Like that shit was cool.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen.
And the Land Shark defense.
Oh, dude, that was how fucking fun was that defense, man? With
I feel
Kimbichi and all them dudes, man. They were awesome. And they were all guys that signed, and they all got together, like you said, form a super team. A lot of them did play, high school and high school and like prep ball together.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see shit like that. So we don't get that anymore because of this damn early signing period. It's tough to kind of swallow. It's tough to see where it's going.
Yeah, for sure.
The transfer portal on top of that just makes it.
Yeah,
it feels weird.
It does. Yeah, definitely a different era that we're witnessing for sure. But it is what it is, and you got to do what you got to do. So, really, the big names today that had not signed, that did sign today. Shermar Stewart, number 6 prospect, signed with A&M, and that gives Jimbo Fisher and company 4 5-star recruits for this signing period. And then also you had a 3rd 5-star prospect, offensive lineman Devin Campbell, chose to sign with Texas, picking the Longhorns over Oklahoma. And then Miami and Oregon also climbed up the rankings. Cristobal landed Trevante Citizen, while Jordan James decommitted from Georgia and went up to Oregon there with Dan Lanning. And then the other one, defensive lineman Caden Story, went from Auburn Tiger to a Clemson Tiger. So not too many, like we've talked about, not too many movements today, but you still did have some, a handful or so of 4-star prospects that finally signed today. And I mentioned one of these teams in here, Texas, and we'll get to it here. We'll answer Amy's question here. But there's some teams here in the top 25 for the recruiting ranks that have me mind blown. Like, I don't how, it's one of those. So, Amy, why do they want to play for Deion? He hasn't shown he is a coach yet. Well,
I don't know that Coach Prime is actually a coach down there. Isn't he just kind of
I think he's a recruiter. He's the face of Jackson State. He's a recruiter. He knows how to bring in the people.
He's a salesman.
Exactly. He is a salesman. He is a salesman, and if he can bring in some top recruits, and look, whether or not he coached or didn't coach this last year or not, they still had a complete turnaround. Really what they win, like 10 games?
I think it was 10.
something
10, 11,
yes,
something like that.
So they obviously are doing something right over there. But a lot of times too, a big name brings big names and even bigger names.
Yeah.
So
it is neat too. You know, whether or not Coach Prime is just a figurehead or not, it is neat to see HBCUs getting some of these guys too.
Yeah.
You know, for forever HBCUs have just kind of been like, you know, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, like they were the dominant programs. And then all these other schools integrated and everything else, and then all the money and all that. So things changed, and these HBCUs have been kind of afterthoughts when it comes to especially football. There's some good ones in basketball, but football especially, they have gone from like prominent schools dominating everybody because they have the best fucking athletes to, you know, not so much success in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And now we see with the NIL, especially, a guy like Coach Prime can attract people because he's fucking Deion Sanders, right? Like that guy is the epitome of cool, right? Like if you're interested in all that swag, as most football players are, especially young impressionable football players,
yeah,
like that's the guy you want to look across to the sideline and say, that's my coach. That's really fucking cool, right? So I think that's, Amy, to kind of address your question directly, I think that's really the appeal of going to Jackson State, is to be able to say, like, Deion Sanders is my fucking coach, right? Like, well, if nothing else, it's that. And then, as you said, the more big players they get, the more big players they're going to be able to get, because they're going to be successful and they're going to get 4 or 5 star guys. You can pay, Amy. The school can't pay them.
The school can't pay, but endorsements,
NIL
sponsorships,
deals,
yeah.
So,
yep.
And that's another thing that Coach Prime brings to the table.
Barstool,
right? Barstool for one, and two, all his other organizations that he's associated with, but also like have Coach Prime walk down the street and start talking to local businesses. They're going to look at it and be like, God, that's fucking Deion Sanders, right? I think I'll open my pocketbooks and I'll get some sponsor money for these players, right? So I think that's another thing he brings to the table, is the potential for more money to come in for the NIL deals and be able to bring in the bigger players. Flipping that dude from Florida State was a fucking coup, man.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Coup. The number 2 recruit, the number 1 cornerback, like that's a coup.
Yeah, for sure. But the other thing that he also brings to the table is he's a former player in the NFL. Yeah. And if you're a head coach, that could, if that's not in your first couple of sentences that comes out of your mouth when you're recruiting the player, you want to go to the NFL?
I'm wearing the Super Bowl rings.
I'm wearing the Super Bowl rings.
I'm wearing the gold jacket.
I will get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what it takes.
Yeah.
I know what it takes to get
exactly.
There. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's
so
a huge selling point.
Yeah. So there's that as well. So, and it's really interesting to see not a lot of former NFL players are higher up in the coaching ranks, you know, and maybe they don't want to be, you know, they like going to high school coaching ranks or stay in the NFL as, you know, a coordinator or whatever, learn the NFL game. We see that all the time.
Yeah. But we see some guys like Kevin Dyson coached at Vanderbilt, and I know Kevin Dyson's not a big name, but that's a former NFL player that is coaching close to where he played. He played for the Titans and the Oilers, and then when they changed to the Titans in Tennessee there. So, you know, Vanderbilt's a logical landing place for him. And then, you know, Hines Ward is coaching. I think he's like an assistant at USC or something now. So he's in the pipeline. So you're seeing a little more, but yeah, it is interesting that you don't see a lot of former NFL players that just, you know, go coach in college.
Yeah. So, all right, real quick, we'll take a quick 30-second break and we will come back and we will talk the top 10 rankings for signing period. This next break is brought to you by XL Constructors out of Overland Park, Kansas. Contact Ryan Trotnack for all your construction needs. XL Constructors out of Overland Park, Kansas. All right, that little break was brought to you by Excel Constructors out of Overland Park, Kansas, Mr. Ryan Trotnick, for all your construction needs. All right, we're back, and we'll go through the top 10 ESPN rankings here real quick, and then we'll just briefly run through 11 through 25 real quick, because there are some interesting ones in that as well. But Texas A&M at number 1. They were number 1 to start early signing day period, and they remain number 1. They got that number. They got the other recruit today, so that basically just solidifies that they will have the number 1 recruiting class come this next year. And who'd they beat out? Alabama.
Beat them on the field and beat them on the recruiting trail.
Yep. So A&M has 22 ESPN 300 commits. Alabama has 20. So battle of 1 and 2 right there for the class ranks. But Alabama coming in second. And I want to say, was Georgia number 1 last year?
Yeah.
Alabama 2. And then I think A&M was 4 or 5 last year. Yeah. So not a surprise. Number 3, Georgia Bulldogs bringing in 16 top 300 commits. Be interesting to see what they do there with Lanning gone now. Lanning took a recruit there, but Georgia at number 3. So your top 3 teams for your college rankings recruiting class are 3 SEC schools.
Yeah. The rich keep getting richer.
Yeah, buddy. Number 4, Big Ten, Ohio State Buckeyes. They have 15 ESPN 300 commits. And then number 5 is a shocker for me. Shocker, especially after the season that they had.
And it's been a long time since they've had a class like this.
Yeah. Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
Where did they come from?
Oh.
They have 17 of the top 300 commits. Their best offensive player is offensive tackle Devin Campbell, who signed today. And then top defensive commit is safety Brian Allen Jr., number 70 out of ESPN's 300. This one just, man.
Yeah, kind of out of nowhere, especially considering, that Texas has not been very good in quite a while.
Yeah.
And they've been hemorrhaging all that in-state talent. So it's surprising to see them get in the top 5. Maybe it's a marker that they're turning a corner. If they can continue to recruit like this, I'm sure they're going to be able to refill the cupboard. But
it with Sarkisian down there, it's his first full recruiting season down there.
Yeah.
Because he didn't take that job until after the national championship last year with Alabama. So I guess that could play a role in it. But especially after the year that they had, it baffles me. It really does. But if you can get Texas is rich in those and that's a recruiting rich environment right there. So if you can get that in-state talent, but then also bring in a quarterback like Quinn Ewers, bring him back from Ohio State in the transfer portal. I mean, man, you're doing something right for sure.
Yeah.
Number 6, Penn State. They have 12 top 300 commits. Number 7, Notre Dame, Fighting Irish. They have
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them, and good for the new head coach there. So first
to maintain with Brian Kelly leaving, head coach changes, sometimes that can really hurt you. But they did a good job of maintaining a lot of their recruits that they had committed, and they refilling the cupboards. Obviously, Notre Dame recruits itself, but it's not easy when you have a coach change to keep that talent that has decided they're coming there. Especially a guy like Brian Kelly that's been a staple there for 9 years, 10 years.
10 years or so. Yeah. But also to get the talent that can actually succeed in the classroom first and then on the field, because really you have to have certain requirements.
They won't loosen up there.
No, they will not
loosen up there.
Nope. So Notre Dame coming in at number 7. So good for them. Number 8, still somewhat of a shocker, given the certain situation, but at the same time, it's not, considering that the year that they had. Harbaugh brings the Michigan Wolverines in at number 8 here, and they have 8 of the 300 ESPN commits. Their best one on offense is 179, wide receiver Tyler Morris, and then defensively number 19.
They just seem to dominate defensively recruiting. It's crazy because they just continue to churn out NFL talent on the defensive side of the ball too, and not a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Some offensive linemen, they need some playmakers there, though, and they didn't do well with this recruiting class. I know it's a great recruiting class overall, being number 8 especially, but they didn't do well at the offensive skill positions with this recruiting class.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And they've got a lot of guys coming back, so I get it. They may be able to maintain for this year, but if they're not refilling the cupboards, they're going to be a flash in the pan, and they're going to be right back to struggling. And so they need to do something about getting some fucking skill players up there in Ann Arbor, because they
need they need a quarterback. They need some wide receivers. Running back, they're all right. Well, is he
Haskins?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Haskins. So,
yeah. And it was clear in the Georgia game, right, that Georgia's defense was not afraid.
No,
not afraid. And if you can't threaten a defense, you can't score points.
Yeah, for sure. All right, bringing up number 9, Venables' first class as a head coach here with the Oklahoma Sooners. He's got 12 of the ESPN 300 commits. Top offensive running back, number 60, Gavin Schwach. And then top defensive commit is an athlete, Gentry Williams, at number 52. So really bringing in, bringing in some people through the transfer portal. And it'll definitely be interesting to see where they are next year after he gets a full season of recruits and gets his guys in there that he wants and everything else. Just the same as Steve Sarkisian with Texas and everything. He came in late, got a full season now. So, yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where he ends up next year.
Yeah, it's surprising to see him out recruit his old head coach too, because Clemson's been top 5 for a decade.
Yeah.
And they out recruited Clemson. So
yes, they did.
Good for him. Good start. And I think he's destined for good things there.
Yeah,
I hate to root for the Sooners, but
yeah, totally agree with you. Number 10. This one surprised me as well.
Yeah.
North Carolina Tar Heels.
Mac Brown keeps fucking stuff in the cupboard, man.
At North Carolina.
That dude must be a fucking apex predator when it comes to being a salesman. He's selling Chapel Hill to football players.
They have offensive commit. Best one that they have is the number 7 offensive tackle Zach Rice, and then top defensive commit defensive tackle Travis Shaw, number 61. So they got some boys on the line.
They got some boys.
That just number 10 for North Carolina. It just baffles me. So good for them. Yeah. Good for them. And they outdid their in-state rival, or I'm sorry, not in-state rival,
cross-state rival,
Clemson there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. Mac is doing some good things there with recruiting for sure. They've got to figure out how to finish ball games, but or how to start ball games.
How to start ball games,
they keep fucking falling behind so early. But
yeah,
they are bringing in ball players though, so there's no questioning that for sure.
Yeah. All right, that was our top 10. And we'll just spitfire 11 through 25 here, but I will touch base on number 11 here because Amy Trotnick brought up Missouri here, which I don't know why anyone would want to bring up Missouri Tigers at all. That's just seems like that's a dumpster fire each and every year, but they are in at number 11, and they have 7 of the ESPN top 300. Their best offensive is wide receiver Luthen Burden, number 5. And then top defensive is defensive tackle Marcus Gracio, number 82. And so, man, they got the number 2 rated player in Gracio for his position. So definitely a good get right there. So yeah. And then they also got Jamarian Wayne and Isaac Thompson, which are also some 3- and 4-star recruits that were big in-state gets as well that signed today. So good deal for them. Really, it's surprising to see Missouri.
Apparently don't sleep on Missouri.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on that state for football.
Yeah, man. Hey, kudos to them. I mean, it's all, you're getting the job done if you're at number 11 and you're Missouri. So, all right, we'll spitfire here. Number 12, Stanford. Number 13, LSU and Brian Kelly coming in at number 13. So that one will be another interesting one to keep an eye on for next year. See where they end up after a full year with Brian Kelly down there. 14 comes in Clemson, good old Dabo at Clemson there. 15 Stoops in the Kentucky Wildcats.
Stoopsy.
Man, good for them.
That's a good recruiting class for them to build on a really good season.
Exactly. So Kentucky comes in at number 15. Number 16, Michigan State. They, after a good season as well, they come up to number 16. Number 17, Beamer and Company, South Carolina Gamecocks. So me living here and obviously hear a lot about Clemson and South Carolina, and not going to lie to you, there's a lot of buzz around South Carolina and Coach Beamer and Beamer ball. So definitely be interesting to see how they –
if they can fix Spencer Rattler, maybe that becomes a game.
Maybe. Yep.
They got a lot of work to do, though.
They do have a lot of work to do. They do. So number 18, Auburn Tigers. 19, Miami Hurricanes. Mario Cristobal comes in at number 19. He will be another one to watch for next year. And that, again,
that's a good start for a new coach.
Good start for a new coach, but also – Florida is a talent-rich environment as well, too. So you have a lot of talent in your own backyard. So we'll see where Miami goes from here. next year. 20, the Florida State Seminoles. They come in at number 20. 21, Arkansas. That one's a little surprising as well for me, but nonetheless, you're still a top 25 ranked class there. 22, Tennessee. 23, Ole Miss. Good old Lane Kiffin out there getting a top 25 ranking there at number 23. 24 and 25. I have no idea how this is even possible. I really don't. I text my buddies that were on a Husker group chat, and I asked them that question. But at 24, you have Indiana, and at 25, you have Arizona.
I don't know how. The one that confuses me the most, like Indiana, we've seen them have, a year.
They were supposed to,
there.
Yeah.
But like Arizona got a top 25 recruiting class.
They had one win.
What the fuck happened there? Like they must be spilling money out of the boosters in Tucson, because I can't explain it, because that is a bad program. It's a bad football program. They've been bad for a long time. Rich Rod had 2 good years there?
Yeah, something.
And they're a top 25 recruiting class. That shit is unreal to me. I didn't understand it. Like for weeks, they've been ranked around 24, 26, 27, 28. And then they solidified themselves. Oh, yeah. Good for them, but it blows my mind. I'm with you. It blows my mind. Indiana is surprising, but Arizona blows my mind at 25.
I have no words. No words. Amy Tronick wants to talk college basketball here. Yeah, why? Might as well, Amy. Might as well. Let's talk a little college basketball, because yeah.
Let's talk it.
What do you want to talk about here?
Because we're just talking about Arizona.
Arizona and Indiana rounding out the top 25 for an ESPN top 300.
And North Carolina's top 10.
Gee, many Christmas.
Next thing you're going to tell me is Duke is in the top 25.
It baffles me. Just baffles me.
Oh my goodness.
But
on that note, though, I do want to say on the basketball note, we will absolutely, when March Madness rolls around, this podcast will be talking about March Madness. This is we will not discriminate, because March Madness is the fucking truth.
It is the truth. It is the way of life.
This podcast does talk a lot about football, but March Madness, absolutely.
And we may even do like an all day, like Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
I'm here for it. Absolutely. I can't wait for March Madness. It's phenomenal. Thursday and Friday are so incredible. All the upsets and everything. It's just so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess you shouldn't have gone to the Royal Rumble, but right. I was. So yes, Amy. So I think I know where you're going here with this, because you posted some pictures on Facebook and I commented on them, and I said I was at a karaoke bar and they had Royal Rumble playing.
Nice.
But yes, they. I did not watch the Kansas game. My wife is a diehard Kansas basketball fan, and we were actually at a escape room.
Oh, nice.
On Saturday, and so
fun.
It was fun. It was so. We went in, and Kansas and Kentucky were just starting off, and when we came out, Kansas had lost by 18.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to see the game, but I did see some of the highlights. Abaji only had 13 points. Kentucky scored 50-51, and they were up by...
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Hey, Amy, I'm going to have to send my wife, and because, she's hearing me talk here now, and she's just like, I thought this podcast was about college football, not college basketball. So, Amy Tronick, I'm going to have to sick my wife on you for bringing this up. It's not my decision here. Not my decision. Yep. But no, I believe Kansas was up by 20 at halftime, or I'm sorry, Kentucky was up by 20 at halftime and ended up winning by 18. So, and Kentucky just came off a loss, if I'm not mistaken, to Auburn. Yep. Was it Auburn? I believe
Auburn.
Yeah. Who is the number 1 ranked team right now in college basketball? So yeah. I love you too, Amy. Appreciate it. Thank you. So yeah, but no, and then obviously Kansas came back and won last night against Iowa State, I believe. But you know, here's the thing. And I don't want to put a jinx on it, so I may not say it, but I may start to imply something here. Okay. What do we have with college football this year?
Oh, chaos.
Oh,
yeah.
What do we have with NFL playoffs?
Oh, just unbelievable games, unbelievable chaos.
So you know what I think we're going to get with college basketball?
The 16 seed's going to win the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. It's a bold.
Where's Maryland, Baltimore County when we need them? Get the fucking Greyhounds on the bus. Let's go.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So
I'm here for that. If we get that level of chaos,
oh man,
like we normally get chaos in March Madness, but if we get that level of chaos in the tournament, woo, I'm here. I'm here for it all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Amy, appreciate you bringing up college basketball because
we're in trouble.
Yep, we'll definitely talk about college basketball if you want to. Gary and I are, we're just college fans in general.
Yeah.
Here. So yeah. So appreciate that, and thanks for getting me in trouble. And for that, this has been a great episode of Tailgate Trash Talk. Again, since this is the off season, we're going every other week, and so next week we will be off. Yep. Yes, you sure do. Yep. But we will be back in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, we will present to you Gary and my top 10 or maybe top 16, may go half, NFL draft mock draft here. So in 2 weeks, we will have our mock drafts ready for you guys, and would love to hear your guys' input here in 2 weeks. So, Gary, any closing thoughts?
No, good good start to the off season. As we talked about to start the show, there's not a ton that goes on in college football in the off season, but in 2 weeks when we talk about the draft, I think we're really going to start to get the juices flowing, with the draft, and then shortly after the draft, we're going to have, spring ball starting up. So that'll be fun to talk about as well. We start to get some of the garnet and gray and the, crimson and white games and those spring games. Those are always fun. So I'm excited about what's coming up once we get closer to spring ball and that sort of stuff.
No, for sure. Nah, Amy, you didn't. No, we're out of stuff to talk about tonight. So you let us.
Timing is impeccable.
Yeah, you let us into it, so we appreciate that. So, but that will do it for us tonight, Gary. Thank you, good sir, for joining, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight, for commenting. We definitely appreciate it. Makes the episode go by easier. Always. So we shall see you guys here in 2 weeks. So for us at Tailgate Trash Talk, thank you and have a great night.